Hello, everyone, and welcome to my class, Mindfulness, Trust Your Gut. I appreciate you attending this class today. My name is Brittany Kerrigan. I am a nutrition and exercise physiology student here at Washington State University at the Elson S. Floyd College of Medicine. In my previous class, 5 Pillars of Health, we talked about physical activity and exercise, nutrition, mindfulness, sleep, and your environment. We touched on each of these subjects and how they relate to overall health in the body. In this 3-video mini-series, I will be expanding on first the topics of mindfulness, then nutrition, and then lastly, but definitely not least, physical activity and exercise. So stay tuned for those other 2 episodes. So the purpose of this class is to provide education and spread awareness on specific health-related topics using scientific-based evidence and professional recommendations. The hope is for you to take that knowledge and apply it into your life in ways that you see fit, that fit your life best. So take what resonates with you and leave what does not. And then just a little disclaimer, none of the following information is a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. So please consult a licensed healthcare professional for those things. I am not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. I am just an undergraduate nutrition and exercise physiology student. So keep that in mind. So just to go over a little agenda for today's class, I'll start off with a little introduction. So this is our first episode in the mini-series, the first out of 3 episodes. So in my previous class, 5 Pillars of Health, we learned about what mindfulness is and how it can impact our everyday lives and our overall health in many ways. In this episode of the mini-series, I will be expanding on the gut-brain connection and how the importance of gut health connects with mental health. And then this class will end with a short interactive meditation and yoga practice. So I hope you stick around for that. So our class objectives for the day, by the end of this class, you should be more familiar with what the gut-brain connection is, the impact gut health can have on cognitive health and vice versa, what the gut microbiome is, and some probiotic food sources. By the end of this class, you should also be able to guide yourself through a 5-minute seated yoga and meditation practice. Now let's get into the education portion of this lecture. So in my previous class, 5 Pillars of Health, we really only touched on the surface level of the gut-brain connection. So in this lecture, I'm going to be diving much deeper into that and into the science behind what's going on here. So first, let's start off with what is the gut-brain connection? So it is a bidirectional pathway of communication between the central nervous system and the enteric nervous system. So what are the central nervous system and the enteric nervous system? So the central nervous system is made up of our brain and our spinal cord. It then branches out to another nervous system called the peripheral nervous system, which controls the rest of our body. So the enteric nervous system, also referred to as the ENS, is a sub-branch of the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system also includes the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So the autonomic nervous system, enteric, sympathetic, and parasympathetic, has all 3 of those in there. So if you can remember from my last lecture, the sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight response. So if you think back to caveman days, you're sitting in your cave, you've got a fire going, it's nice and cozy, but then a bear comes in. That's going to set off your fight or flight response. If that bear doesn't come in and you're relaxing by the fire, maybe some food's cooking, you're probably going to be in a more parasympathetic or rest and digest state. And how do these 2 nervous systems communicate with each other? Well, they do so by way of the vagus nerve, which we'll get more into later. So here's a really good diagram to help us kind of break down these nervous systems a little better because it can be a little confusing. So starting at the top with this first red square, we see the central nervous system. So again, that is made up of our brain and our spinal cord. And again, this branches out into our peripheral nervous system, which then goes down to our autonomic nervous system. So I really just want you to focus on these red boxes here. So again, our autonomic nervous system is comprised of the enteric nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which are in communication with each other, as we can see by these arrows. So how does the gut-brain connection work? So we kind of just learned that. It provides a link between the central nervous system and the enteric nervous system by sending both physical and chemical signals both ways. And it is influenced by the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, and also influenced by gut microbiota and neurotransmitters, and is responsible for regulation of gut homeostasis. So if we look at this first diagram in the middle here, we see the brain, and then right under that is going to be our vagus nerve. And we can see communication pathway going down to the enteric nervous system, and then we can see it going back up from the enteric nervous system, back up to the vagus nerve and to the brain. Then if we move over to this last diagram here, we can really see that bidirectional pathway as well. And this gives a lot of good detail about when you have your gut in either a homeostatic state or an unbalanced state. So here on the left, we can see a balanced gut microbiome, which results in proper functioning of the brain or proper neural functioning. And we see some tight junctions in the gut. And here on the right, we can see what is called dysbiosis when we have an unhomeostatic microbiome or gut. And we'll go into more of what that means here in a little bit. But as you can see, when we have an unbalanced gut, that's going to create some brain fog or some cognitive issues. We're going to have some inflammatory things going on in our body. We're going to have imbalanced gut microbiota, and we may even have a leaky gut and some untight junctions in our gut. So we'll get more into what that kind of means here in a little bit. So as we just learned, the gut-brain connection is influenced by neurotransmitters in the gut microbiome. So I wanted to talk a little bit about tryptophan and serotonin. So what are these things? So tryptophan is an essential amino acid. It's obtained through the diet by eating protein, such as turkey or meat, cheese, lentils, nuts and seeds, or soy products, among other things. And this is a precursor to serotonin, and it gets broken down into serotonin in the gut. So what is serotonin? Serotonin is a neurotransmitter derived from tryptophan. It affects mood, cognition, hunger, digestion, the sleep cycle, and more. It's synthesized in the central nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and the enteric nervous system. Only 5% is created in the central nervous system. The remainder is in the parasympathetic nervous system, with 90% of that being created in the enteric nervous system. So that means most of the serotonin in our body is actually created in our gut. So if you've ever got that gut feeling before, there's like some science behind that actually. So let's move on to this little diagram on the right. I thought this is a really good representation of what's going on here with tryptophan and serotonin. So as we can see at the top left side of this picture, when we eat dietary protein, that gets broken down in our body to tryptophan, which then gets broken down into serotonin, which then further gets broken down into melatonin and is involved in the sleep-wake cycle, which we learned about in our last class. And we can also see some effects here, either in the central nervous system or the enteric nervous system. So in the central nervous system, we'll see effects on some things like mood and cognition, circadian rhythm, sexual behavior, oxidative stress, and cognition. In the gut, we might see modulation of immune effects, some intestinal secretion or absorption, GI permeability. So that's going to refer to the amount of absorption that is going to happen in your gut, or even like the junctions of your gut. And then GI mobility, which is really just referring to digestion. Now let's talk about the gut microbiome. What is the gut microbiome? So it's kind of like a little city living in your body. The microbiome consists of the bacteria or bugs in your gut, and this can be either good or bad bacteria. So the majority of it is going to be symbiotic or beneficial. There's very few pathogenic or harmful bacteria in our gut unless we're in a severe dysbiotic state. So in a healthy individual, The good and bad bacteria in our body will coexist without issues in a symbiotic relationship. But this relationship can be affected by several things, such as infections, poor diet, prolonged use of antibiotics or other medications that affect the gut microbiome, among many other things, resulting in dysbiosis. And what dysbiosis means is an imbalanced gut microflora or microbiome, um, to the point where it's not in a symbiotic relationship. So I have a really great little diagram down here, which I did not make, kind of demonstrating this, or illustrating it. So on the left, we can see the microbiome there, and then we can see some of the physiological functions. So it the microbiome functions in digestion, mucus production, energy harvesting, and increasing immune function even. So if we have disruptors such as genetics, drugs, xenobiotics, which are basically just foreign substances, often synthetic, pollution, stress, diet, um, antibiotics, things like that, then we lead to disease in the body. And when that happens, when we have a healthy gut, we have like these junctions in our gut that are nice and tight. And as our gut becomes unhealthy and we see inflammatory things kind of popping up in there, those junctions can get loose, and bad things can get through. This can result in decreased absorption of certain nutrients. So yeah, just to name a few things. So how do we keep the gut healthy? So there's several ways we can do this. One of the main points that I'm going to focus on is eating probiotics, but there's others, such as limiting ultra-processed food consumption. So ultra-processed food is going to be our processed food, such as packaged candy, chips, cookies, cake, ice cream, stuff like that. So that's stuff that we should try to eat in moderation. Another tip would be to limit exposure to environmental toxins and chemicals, such as pollution. Consume healthy sources of protein, so get that good tryptophan, serotonin, melatonin in there. Eat a variety of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and prebiotics. So eat a variety of foods to kind of enhance that gut microbiome. Also limit stress and infections as much as possible because those can also be contributors to dysbiosis. So kind of focusing more on probiotics, you can think of those as like things just to kind of keep your gut health healthy. So for example, for brain health, you might do a crossword puzzle or read a book or do some meditation, maybe some yoga or some music to stimulate the mind. Or if you're trying to work on physical health, you might exercise or go swimming or biking or participate in sports or weightlifting. So for gut health, what we can do is use probiotics to kind of support that area of our body as well. So now we're going to talk about health foods for the gut, specifically probiotics. So some examples of probiotics that we can find and include in our diet are yogurt and kefir. If you happen to have a dairy allergy or cannot or do not include dairy in your diet, they do have dairy-free alternatives. So dairy-free yogurt and dairy-free kefir that do contain probiotics. So you can get it that way as well. Another source would be cheese, or fermented vegetables such as kimchi, sauerkraut, pickles, even pickled green beans or pickled asparagus as well. Now I wanted to just kind of bring your attention to this little diagram on the right here. So this is just a good diagram kind of showing us, so just a few more probiotic sources here. We have sourdough bread or kombucha. And if you can kind of see in this picture, you may be able to see the mother here. You may know what that is. If not, feel free to email me or Google it. And then we also have supplementation. So just a little disclaimer on that. Make sure you use quality sources of probiotics and speak with your doctor about supplementation. So just some discussions and advice to conclude the education portion of this lecture. So there is research in this field on the gut-brain connection, but there's much more to be done. So this is a really exciting field of research, and more evidence is coming up by the year, maybe even by the week or the day. So that is exciting, and so keep an eye out for more research because we still do not know a lot about what's going on here, and there's so much more to learn. Also, we learned the gut-brain connection is an important aspect of maintaining our health. The gut-brain connection is a real thing, so there's a lot of factors that can factor into and affect our gut health and therefore our brain health and vice versa, such as poor diet or a good diet can go either way as far as good health or bad gut health goes. Infections, our environment, so a lot of things factor into this. So in conclusion, we should trust our gut because there's actually some evidence behind that gut feeling. So that concludes the education portion of this lecture. Next, we're going to move on to our interactive 5 to 6 minute yoga and meditation practice. So I'll go ahead and leave the screen here for a few seconds just so you can have a quick look at my references if you'd like to refer to any of them. So I hope you join me in the next slide for this meditation and yoga practice. Now I invite you to join me for a short yoga and meditation practice. This is a really good tool to use in times when we might be feeling extra anxious or stressed or excited. This is a good way to kind of turn off that sympathetic nervous system and turn on that parasympathetic nervous system. So let's begin seated in a comfortable position. Go ahead and pause your video and come back to me if you need to. You can even take some pillows to sit on if you need to take some pressure off those hips. And if you can't sit on the floor, it's totally okay to sit in a chair. You can do all these poses in a chair as well. So we're just going to start off by bringing our attention to our body and our breath. So go ahead, get seated crisscross applesauce or however is most comfortable for you. And then go ahead and find some good posture. Bring those shoulders down and back. Place your palms on your knees. And let's start bringing our attention to our breath. So take deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as we go through this, if you have any stressful thoughts or thoughts about your day that come through your mind, I want you to allow them to come and then just allow them to pass. Now let's get started with some gentle movement. So we're going to start by hugging ourselves, by wrapping our arms around our chest. We're going to round our back, arch our spine, and look up to the ceiling, shoulders down and back. We're going to then exhale, round the spine the opposite direction, chin to chest, belly button to spine. Then inhale, look up to the ceiling, arch the back, chest to the sky. Then exhale, round that back, chin to chest, belly button to spine. And just flow through that one more time at your own pace, following your own breath. And then come slowly out of that and meet me in a neutral seated position. Now we're going to do some gentle side bends. So let's go ahead and start on the right hand side. We're going to take our right palm, place it on the ground behind us. Take our left palm up towards the ceiling, up overhead, and then dump it all to one side like so. You can even look up towards the ceiling or towards the crease of your elbow. And you may be here in this stretch, you may be all the way down here. Meet you where you're at today. Or meet yourself where you're at today. Then we're going to cartwheel it all the way over to the other side. So left palm on the ground, right palm facing up, and then dump it over to the other side. And don't forget to breathe. Then slowly cartwheel it back to center. Meet me back at neutral again. And we're going to end with some gentle side twists. So we're going to bring our palms both facing towards the ceiling, bring the arms up overhead, and we're going to start with the right side and twist to one side, right hand behind you, place it on the floor, left hand on the outer side of that right knee, and then just kind of twist towards your right and look towards the back of the room if you can. And take another deep breath in, bring those arms up and overhead one more time, and then rotate to the other side. Again, left hand behind you, right hand on the outside of that left knee. Then go ahead and slowly come out of that. Meet me in neutral. Let's take a few more deep breaths together. Remember that you can create this space for yourself whenever you need to, and come to it at any time, any day. Thank you for participating in this short meditation and yoga practice. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining my class today, Mindfulness, Trust Your Gut. Please join me for my other two classes, Nutrition Beyond the Basics and Physical Activity and Exercise Explained. For my interactive portions for those classes, I'm going to be doing a short cooking demo. We're going to be making 3 different kinds of hummus, and we're also going to be doing a short exercise demo in which can be turned into a full body workout. So thank you so much again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Feel free to contact me with any questions you may have. Again, my name is Brittany Kerrigan. I have my 2 emails at the bottom here. On the left is my school email, and on the right is my personal email. I hope to hear from you. Thanks again. Bye.